touch on a presentation I did a while ago. I just wanted to give you guys maybe like an understanding of what's like the future of Africa and technology and stuff like that. That's what got me really interested in in trying to go back to Africa and to build something, because there's a lot of opportunity, and I hope this presentation will kind of give you an inspiration or something in that nature, right? So I did this a while ago um, for a workshop for an organization. So I thought, oh, let me go back and do this for you guys, you know, and hopefully this will inspire you guys, mostly people from the diaspora, especially those who are living in England or in America and so on. Um, so let's start with population, because I think that's really important. So currently close to 50% of Africa population are children under 18, right? And by 2030, Africa's under 18 population will increase up to 170 million, right? And by 2050, that's going to be 40% of the world's children under 18 will live in Africa, right? And by the 21st century or 2100 and stuff like that, 50% of the world population, children under 18, will live in Africa, right? So what does that say? It's saying that there's going to be a lot of young people living in Africa, and it's very important that we know that. Um, People always talk about there's a large population and all this stuff. Um, like you look at China, you look at India, and you compare their population. But you look at Africa, you think, wow, there's going to be a lot of young people. You look at places like China and India. There are people there, but most of them are slightly older or so. Not all of them, but most of the young generation or the young people will be living in Africa. So that's very important for you to understand that. So this is a graph. So it's a children population will reach 1 billion by 2055, and will become the largest of all the continents, right? In the pretty much latter part of the 21st century. So if you look at how like the growth of this chart, like you could see that children under 18, it's really growing really in billions. So we're talking, right? And this is like a segment of like different part of, like, like Central Africa, Eastern Africa, Northern Africa, southern part of Africa, and then West Africa. You look at West Africa, you think this is where majority of the population would be, right? Of course, Nigeria is like on top, because West Africa, it's Nigeria is really a big part of that. So Nigeria is a big part of West Africa, and it has the most population so far, which is a bit of amazing, right? If you think about it, Nigeria is growing really fast, especially West Africa itself. It's growing really fast, and there are going to be a lot of young people and so on, right? So if you compare the population between Western, Southern, North, Eastern, and Central, as you could see, by 2050, Nigeria is really getting there. Of course, the eastern part is also catching up in a sense, but the West Africa, it's so not Nigeria. West Africa is on top, right? So West Africa is really winning. So if you talk about people, most majority of them will be going to work. So this is a data I got from the Bank of England, by the way. It's not, so the first data you're seeing is from the World Bank, and the data that I'm gonna be going through now, like the future of work, this is coming from the UK Bank of England data. I do spend some time reading some of their publication and stuff. It's very interesting how much the amount of data you could get from those websites, and very insightful. These are done by some of the people, the brightest people in UK and so on. Um, but yeah, very good data on the future of work, right? So as you know, like especially in a Western civilized, well, Western part of the world, they moving from a farming to a service-based economy, right? So like from the year 1522, everything was based on farming, right? And then from 1801, and then it moved into industry, right? Like you talk about the industrial revolution that happens in the UK and so on. And then now we're getting into a service based type of economy where everything is, things like your, a good example would be like your Amazon, your Uber, your Netflix, and all these things, right? So these are little services that are coming in, and that's where most of your money will be coming from, right? Um, but of course, it doesn't mean that industrial and farming is still not there, right? So technology now changed this in many ways, right? Technology has a big impact. And some people look at technology differently. Like you think of China, and then you think of Africa, right? You look at China, like most of some part of China, everything is driven by technology, right? And of course, there is a good and a bad side on both of them. Like for example, if you're a farmer in China and you have the capacity and you're capable, you could use drone to like water your plants. And also with machine learning nowadays, you could determine what fruit is what, and then through packaging the machine would determine this and filter it through, right? And then of course, if you're living on a so-called third world country, or countries that are not developed yet, or um, yes, some countries who are not in there yet, or so it's mostly tedious job. So you have a person that goes around with a bucket, and in watering each plant and all this stuff. It's long and tedious. Or if you're in like I don't know, if in different countries where you have to sweatshops in a sense. I don't want to use that word because it's a terrible word. But you have to manually like sew the things yourself, and it's long and tedious, whereas machine could do this much faster, right? So of course most jobs will be affected by technology, and automations and artificial intelligence is, as you know, it will take over most of the jobs in the western part of the in the western part of the world, or the so-called developed countries, like right. I'm sure in China there are a lot of bots now cleaning your house, and there's even a Chinese company that has these type of automation arms that makes you coffee and tea and all these things. So imagine that, and Starbucks could look into that in the future, right? Or they're already looking into that. And then you go to an Amazon warehouse, you could see, I don't know if anyone worked in an Amazon warehouse. Most of the heavy stuff is done by automated machines, right? Carrying some of the heavy loads. You have machine going, moving around, like these small little bots moving from one place to another place. And especially in the car industry, right? Most of it now is done by automation. You have machine doing most of the car, and the gun industry, and lots of the manufacturing jobs are done by machine now, right? I mean, Amazon is thinking about doing their own drones that deliver products. That would pretty much get rid of all these delivery systems and stuff like that. So there is a heavy use of automations, and especially in the banking sector, which is mostly where I'm coming from, where I'm still working into, and stuff like that. You look at the banking industry, like for example, you don't have a teller anymore. Everything is done. Like you have lots of machines that are doing most of it, and then also there's the most of these modern banks have apps now that do most of the day-to-day transaction of you could pay in a check now using your app. You could transfer money. You don't necessarily have to go into a branch or any of that to do what you need to do, right? So what jobs are more likely to be automated like in the future, right? So of course we talk about like lower skilled jobs and middle skilled jobs, and then we talk about higher skilled jobs. So most of the lower skilled jobs are like process plant machinery, sales, customer service, elementary, um, and then of course the middle, you have administrative jobs, you have skilled traders, you have catering, leisures and stuff like. And then of course if you look into the higher jobs like associated professionals, technical technology, technical professors, managers, directors, senior officials. So the jobs that where most people are not using their brains as much, they're not doing a lot of thinking, those jobs would highly be converted into a type of automated system in a sense. So the most jobs that is going to be difficult for it to be converted into automated are those going to be jobs where you do most of the thinking, right? So like a director of a company would probably much do most of the thinking and stuff like that. So it's going to be difficult to replace people like that. So, but things like low skilled job or middle skilled jobs, those jobs are likely to be removed, right? So this again, this is the Bank of England. It's talking from 2016 to 2030, right? So which is it's not, if you really think about it, it's like few more years we're there in 2030, right? Of course China have their 2025 goals, and of course the African Union, they also have some of their plans that they're working on, and then of course America and Europe and so on. You definitely need to have like, uh, so you need to kind of adapt your skills again to like to benefit this, right? So you definitely need to have like technological skills. You need to have like social and emotional skills, and you need to have like a higher thinking and reasoning skills, right? So those type of skills are going to be very important in the future, going and moving. Even right now as we speak in 2021, those are very important skills, right? You definitely need to have. And skills jobs that probably won't be needed anymore, like basic thinking and reasoning skills, and physical and manual skills, those type of skills are pretty much won't be needed anymore, right? So you won't definitely need those type of people in your workplace, because everything you have to know, especially coding, you have to know, you have to have a social and an emotional type of skills, emotional intelligence skill or IQ. And you need to think a little bit outside the box. You need to have good reasoning skills. You need to solve problems, those type of skills. So those skills will definitely be needed. And I think it's for all of us. It doesn't have to be mean. It doesn't have to mean you have to be in Africa or in Europe to think like this. It's good to have. You need to have a technological skill, right? And you need to have a higher thinking, reasoning skills, right? So anything like basic thinking and reasoning skills will pretty much be like obsolete in a sense, because most artificial intelligence, or machines are thinking for us. There will come a time when the machine will think for herself, right? So yeah, you need to adapt to those skills for you to benefit the future, right? And it's really important for you to adopt those skills. So this is where we talk about like data, why it's important. I mean, in most of these countries nowadays, data is everything. People talk about data is the natural resources and so on. And and then of course there is machine learning, like AI learning, deep learning. And then with machine learning you have supervised learning, you have unsupervised learning, and reinforced learning and stuff like that. And then of course you talk about APIs, things like nowadays most web applications would run on some type of API or something like that. So for mobile devices, for web apps, for games, for TV, and so on. So highly recommend that you spend some time, you learn Python, basic Python. It would be nice one day, if someone create a programming language out of Africa, right? Imagine how interesting and great that would be, right? And of course, it will probably, most of it be taken out of C and other programming language. You would have the same stuff like a variable and if statement and loops and OOP and your basic foundation of programming, a function and stuff like that. Yeah, so definitely I highly recommend people maybe look into Python, look into Flutter. I'm not really, again, no one is paying me to telling you to learn this, and no one is paying. Google's not definitely not paying me. I'm not telling you to go and learn it, but if you don't want to learn it, you don't want to learn it. It's kind of up to you. But Google's not paying me or anything like that. But I highly recommend Flutter, and it's a very interesting language because it gives you the option or framework to do all of this in one go, right? So, like if you're learning native, you have to do Swift using Xcode, and if you're learning, you have to do Kotlin or Java for Android. Whereas with Flutter, you could have both world, you could have desktop, mobile, and so on. Of course, there are other programming language that are popularity. Again, this is all could be old. This is like old data I've gotten. I thought let me redo this presentation again. It's been a while. Again, Python is really easy to learn, very popular. Java is also popular, and JavaScript and all so on. Yeah, W3 School, YouTube, Python, documentation website himself is really good way to learn, and yeah, these are the most valuable brands of 2020. So things like Amazon, Google, Apple, Microsoft, Samsung. Now you see there are a few Chinese companies, right? Like Ping An, which is a amazing company. They doing some very interesting and scary stuff, right? This company Ping An. If you have time, Google it. Of course, Huawei has always been in the background, from hardware to software now. But I really like this company, Ping An. I'm a really big fan of them. Of course, Amazon is probably one of the best, interesting company right now, especially last year and this year. I mean, one of the richest man is this guy. Who knows? There will come one day when all these companies wouldn't be there anymore. One day Google won't be there, Apple won't be there, Microsoft won't be there, and Samsung and even this company Ping An wouldn't be there, right? There will be an African company. Hopefully that will be done by you or me or a another person who's from Africa, right? So highly recommend if you're an older person or you're a new parent or whatever you are, or you're just into you know nothing about coding, look into it. um, of course, Africa is really growing fast, right? One, there's going to be more young people in Africa, and second, there's going to be more phone devices, right? So if you're into creating app, maybe using Flutter, you could tap into that market. Where most people, where all the young people going to be is in Africa. So that's why I'm really looking to do this Tech Rise Media in Africa. I really want to start up this technology company in Africa, as a, it's like a media company. We're going to be creating apps. We're going to be creating training and development, social media management, and creating content, right? And who knows? you know. It's a company that I've started with some friends, even though I also have a company in the UK that do software. And I think it would be an interesting place, especially in Africa, to get people to learn more about technology, especially coding. Get the young generation to program, especially Python, right? Or even basic stuff. We could start from the basic, like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, or SQL, and these things are not hard. Imagine we're focusing on more on this. We're teaching the young generation, how to create websites, how to create mobile apps, how looking into machine learning, right? Using some of cleaning data or data analyst and stuff like that, because the data is there already. How we utilize this data to our advantage, and that would also help our government, right? So, like, we could see what the data is coming in, and from there we could take the data and we could help the Guinean government. I'm really passionate about this, and I think, I could see myself one day, going back to Guinea and helping the Guinean people to utilize some of their skills, especially in technology. um, but I'll leave it there, and some of the resources that I've used. So it's, I've used like the Bank of England, some of their data, and also UNICEF data, and of course Python and programming web. Yeah, so take your time, learn a programming language if you're into technology. If you're not, it's still learn something. Learn one or two languages, because it would really help you in the future, and it's something that we should look into, and it's something that we should help, because we're not at the front of technology, especially in Africa, and there are a lot of wonderful startup in Kenya, in Nigeria, but most of them, they're lacking funding. They don't have enough funding for them to move forward, and I think that's where the problem lies. But the diaspora should help those companies, or should help those people to to move forward, and yeah, do your best to help them. And yeah, well, thank you for listening, and I hope you like this presentation. And yeah, let me know what you think. Send me an email. If you're interested in of meeting and connecting, please let me know. I'm happy to talk to anybody. um and then yeah, I'll promise I'll find the time, and we could sit down, we could talk, or we could email. All right, and talk to you soon, guys. Thank you very much. Bye bye.